Okay, we're back with round 2 of the midterm practice test. We're going to go ahead and take a look at question 16 and left off what we did with the first video. I think no more word problems going forward, so it's all very mathematical. And the question is to solve the inequality. It says to graph the solution and write the answer in interval notation. So these are all things you should be familiar with. So we have 21x plus 9 is greater than 3 times the quantity of 6x plus 4. So just like solving equations, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute that through. So I have 21x plus 9 is greater than 18x plus 12. Like I do with equations, I'm going to go ahead and move things around. So when I do that, I'm going to have 21x here I'm going to keep here. I'm going to move the 18x over to make a negative 18x. And I'm going to have here 12, and here they'll have minus 9. I'll move this over here. 21x minus 18x is going to give me 3x. 12 minus 9 is going to be 3. So we have 3x is greater than 3. If I divide by 3, I'm going to have x is greater than 1. Now, there's my solution written in kind of algebraic form. If I want to put this on a number line, as I've shown in previous videos, what I would do is I would just draw a number line, put my 1 here. I'm going to use this as an arrowhead to decide the direction this is going to move. And because it's greater than only, I'm going to put a parenthesis here. So that's how I kind of draw the solution out on a number line. And then you're going to be expected to do something like that in your test as well. If you're going to write this in interval notation, we're going to create the interval notation right under this, where I'm going to have this as a 1 with a parenthesis because, again, it's greater than only. And this is going all the way to infinity, so I'm going to write it like this. So here's my solution worked out algebraically. Here's my solution written on a number line, and here's my solution written out in interval notation. So that's question 16. Question 17, going to be on this page here. I'll bring this down a bit. It wants us to work out this compound inequality, which I believe you'll see in the notes. My apologies.
You may do that either at the ASB window or an E4. Again, if you'd like to buy your homecoming dance ticket, please go ahead and come to either the ASB window or to E4. If you'd like to buy your football ticket, please come right now. You can go to E6. All football tickets are being sold through E6. You may buy your ticket. You can buy your parents' ticket. You can buy a guest ticket. If you'd like to have a football ticket for tonight, please go to E6. Please enjoy your night, and let's have a great football game. Thank you, everybody.
My apologies for the length of the announcements. It is Friday and it's homecoming day, so you may get a few more of these, but this is what I do on my lunch, make videos for you guys, just in case you're wondering. All right, so I have compound inequality. It's called a compound inequality because you have 2 of these. It's kind of like a double-decker sandwich where you have some bread in the middle. So we're going to try to get x by itself here. So to do that, I'm going to add 4 here, add 4 here, add 4 here. That'll give me 8 is less than or equal to 4x, which is less than or equal to 28. Now to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. That's going to get me 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 7. So now if I want to write this on a number line, again, I'm just going to put the number line directly below the solution here. I'm going to put 2 on this, I'm going to put 7 on this. And what we're really saying is that x is between 2 and 7. So when we write this out, we're just going to go ahead and draw the solution like this. And because of the equal to part like here and here, we're going to bracket this here. So here is the solution written out graphically. Again, we can work right under this to kind of write this in interval notation. It goes from 2 to 7. So my final answer in interval notation is going to be bracket 2, 7. So here's the answer in algebraic form. Here's the answer on a number line. Here's the answer in interval notation to question 17. Okay, let's take a look at question 18. It says use the quotient rule to simplify the expression. So when we talk about the quotient rule, we're talking about the rules regarding exponents. So we have here for 18, it's going to be 45 m to the 3rd n to the 7th over 9 m to the 2nd n to the 5th So for this one here, we're going to have 45 divided by 9. That's going to equal 5. We have m to the 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2, that's going to be m, because we take 3 minus 2 to get 1. N to the 7 divided by n to the 5th is 7 minus 5, so that's going to be n squared. So the final answer to question 18 is 5m n squared. Okay. Says to perform the division. So when we carry this out, number 19, let me take away this work here and show question 19 in all its glory. What they're asking us to do with this, and by the way, this work is shown toward the end of chapter 3. I want to say this is going to be section 3.6, or possibly even 3.7, but I forget which one. It's one of those two. First, the problem for number 19 is written out as 49x to the 7th minus 21x to the 6th plus 56x to the 5th. And this is all divided by 7x to the 6th. Well, one way you can write this out is to kind of spread the division. So this is dividing here, here, and here. So I can write this, for example, as 40, let me move this up a little bit, 49x to the 7th divided by 7x to the 6th. This is going to be minus 21x to the 6th divided by 7x to the 6th, and then plus 56x to the 5th divided by 21x to the 6th. So we divide each of these out individually. 49 divided by 7 will give me 7. X to the 7th divided by x to the 6th. 7 minus 6 is x. Minus 21 divided by 7, 3. X to the 6th divided by x to the 6 is 1. Plus 56 divided by, not 21, that's 7, my apologies. Okay, 56 divided by 7 is going to be 8. X to the 6th divided by x to the 5th, well, that's going to give us x to the negative 1. So if we're going to write that out on a final answer, we should not write it that way. One of the things that's, even if they don't ask for it, is that you always have to write this with a positive exponent. So I'm going to write my final answer in the form of 7x minus 3 plus 8 over x. And that is going to be my final answer to question 19 in simplest form. So there's the solution to that problem worked out right there. And I hope everyone understands how that works. Okay, let's take a look at question 20 now. It says use synthetic division. Now, this is something I relied entirely on the video to teach you. I think it's fair to say that there'll be one question like this on the test. So if you have not learned synthetic division yet, this explanation is not going to be much help, as I'm not going to reteach the whole process of synthetic division here. It's a pretty standard process. It takes a little practice and a little getting used to, so hopefully you've taken the opportunity to do that. So what I'm going to do in this process here is if I have x minus 7, I set that equal to 0, that will give me x is equal to 7. And that's what I'm going to attempt to divide through. And then here I have x squared plus 4x minus 77. So I'm going to write 1, 4, and then negative 77. To carry that out, and let's see what that's going to get me here. Okay? So I'm going to have for this now, let's see, I'm going to bring down here, I'm going to just bring down the 1. 7 times 1 is 7. I bring that here. 4 plus 7, that's going to equal 4 plus 7 is equal to 11. 7 times 11 is 77. I'm going to bring that here. Negative 77 plus 77 is 0. So this is going to yield for me, this would be the coefficient term, this is the x, so that's going to be the answer of x plus 11, because we're going to put an x next to this, as we would have learned. So your final answer is going to be x plus 11. And that's going to be choice C, as you should see it works out. Again, if that makes no sense to you, that probably means that you haven't watched the video on synthetic division, so you're going to need to take a look at that to be ready for that question on the test. Let's go ahead and take a look at question 21 now. It says, solve the equation for the indicated variable. Now, there will be one of these kind of questions on the test, but it's not going to look like this. It's going to be something different. So you need to be comfortable with this process. So P equals 2L plus 2W. Let's go ahead and write that down. And we're asked to solve it for L. And we're asked to solve for L. That means we want to get L alone. So if we want to get L alone, that means I don't want 2W over here at all. So I'm just going to move it to the other side. But when I move it to the opposite side, when I move this, I'm going to write it as P minus 2L, or 2W, and that's going to equal 2L. If I want to get L by itself now, I need to divide both sides by 2. So final answer for L is equal to P minus 2W divided by 2. And that's what I'd be looking for in terms of this answer and its final form. Okay, well, let's take a look at 22 now. 22 says to perform the indicated operation. It's the last question on page 3 of the practice test. I believe there's 6 pages to this in all, a total of 50 questions. So on this problem here, it's saying to take this polynomial and subtract this polynomial. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the sign of everything in here when I write this. So it's going to be 4n to the 7th minus 3n to the 6th plus 13. Because of the minus sign here, this positive 9n to the 7th will be negative. This negative 10n to the 6th will be positive. This negative 10 will be positive. So I'm going to write this now as minus 9n to the 7th plus 10n to the 6th plus 10. I combine my like terms by looking at the terms that have the same exponents. So the n to the 7ths, I'm going to go ahead and box them. I'm going to circle my terms with n to the 6th, and I'm just going to underline the numbers here. So I have 4n squared minus 9n squared, or 4 minus 9, sorry, not squared, to the 7th. 4 minus 9 is going to be negative 5n to the 7th. Negative 3 plus 10, that's going to give me plus 7n to the 6th. And then plus 13 plus 10 will give me plus 23. So there's my final answer in the work done for question 22. Okay, now we're going to go to goldenrod paper to look at some other problems. That's what was left in my printer. I was nearly out. And we have the final question here. We're going to be looking at distribution of a monomial through a polynomial. So this is the kind of work that we talked about in chapter 3. So when I multiply 2x times 8x squared minus 3xy plus 4y squared, all we're going to do is multiply the numbers by 2, and anything that has an x, we add 1 to it. This doesn't have an x, it's just going to get 1. So 2 times 8 will be 16. 2 times negative 3 will be negative 6. 2 times 4 is going to be 8, and it'll be plus 8. X times x to the second is x to the third. X times x will be x to the second, y. Then x times y to the second will just give me xy to the second. And that's going to be the answer to question 23. Okay, now we're getting into the new section here. So if you haven't seen this yet, this is where we start getting into factoring for chapter 3. And this technique is what's going to be called factoring by grouping. So if you haven't done this yet, you got to make sure that before watching the video, that you really wrap your head around the concept of factoring by grouping, because it's going to look a little strange at first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this out with some space in between. And if you've watched my videos on this and pay attention in class, you'll know what I mean. So we usually do polynomial by factoring by grouping. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. We usually don't require factoring by grouping unless we have at least 4 terms. So I'm going to write the first 2 terms out, 15x squared minus 10xy. And then the second 2 terms are going to spread out a little bit. Negative 18xy plus 12y squared. So if I'm looking at that, I try to see what is the greatest common factor that I can factor out of 15x squared and 10xy. So for 15 and 10, that greatest common factor is going to be 5. For x squared and x, it's going to be x. And there's no y here, so that's not going to be something you can factor out. So notice here, again, as I've shown in my videos, that I should be able to drop this whole thing in here, because what I want to do is go back a little bit. 5 times what's 15? 3. X times what is x squared? X. Minus 5 times what is 10? 2. X times 1 is x, so I don't need to put an x there. And that's going to give you 3x minus 2y. If you've done this correctly, as I've pointed out in videos before, you better get 3x minus 2y over here if you factor this out correctly. What factors out of this? Again, something I covered in my videos, that if the first term of this remaining binomial for the first 4 terms.
Attention students, can Daniel Rogoff please come to the attendance office? Daniel Rogoff, please come to the attendance office.
If I begin with a negative here, I need to factor out a negative. So that's going to make this positive here and negative here, which makes sense with what we have over here. For 18 and 12, the greatest common factor is 6. So I can factor a 6 out. And for y and y squared, that's going to be a y. So I'm going to go through here. Negative 6 times 3 will give me negative 18. Negative 6 times negative 2 will give me a positive 12, which makes sense because I have a 3 and a negative 2 here. Y times x will give me xy, so that's going to be 3x. That looks good. And then y times y gives me y squared. So I have 3x minus 2y. And if you factor by grouping, the binomial you get here should be identical. So if you look at these as two different groups, they both contain 3x minus 2y. What's left? Here, it's 5x. What's here? Negative 6y. And that is how we do factoring by grouping, at least for that particular question.
Attention students interested in buying their homecoming dance ticket. There is currently no line in room E4. Again, there is not a line in E4. Skip the line in the front of the school. Go ahead and visit us at E4 with the permission slip and your money for tomorrow's homecoming dance. Save that money. Also, Eagles, if you're interested in buying your football ticket, please buy your football ticket today at E6. Again, if you are wanting to buy that football ticket and avoid the line, please buy your ticket in E6. Tonight at the football game, you may not take any backpacks or any bags. Again, there will not be any backpacks allowed into tonight's game on football game. All Eagles, please leave your bags home tonight when you come to the football game. Thank you, Eagles, and have a great day.
Yay, Eagles. Okay, next question. 9z plus 11 squared. You recall that in all the classes I gave this question, and a lot of people were tricked by how you should approach this. Remember that 9z plus 11 squared is 9z plus 11 times 9z plus 11. So for that one, we're going to use a multiplication box, and I think that's the name I'm just going to stick with for now on because it's pretty straightforward. Terribly unimaginative, but straightforward. So I'm going to move this up a little bit, and I'm going to put 9z plus 11, 9z plus 11. So this is going to give me 81z squared plus 99z plus 99z plus 121. Remember that we combine like terms on the peanut here, so this is going to all equal 81z squared plus 198z plus 121. And that's going to be your final answer to question 25. Taking a look at question 26, we have an even more robust type multiplication going on there, but this is all going to be using the multiplication box that we talked about earlier. So the problem reads 8x minus 1 times x squared minus 3x plus 1. So instead of rewriting the question, I'm just going to go ahead and write for the box because you all should have this on your sheets anyway. So you all should know what I'm talking about. So this is going to be 8x minus 1 times x squared minus 3x plus 1. And I carry out the multiplication. This will be 8x to the third, negative 24x squared, plus 8x. And everything here is just going to get their sign changed. Minus x squared plus 3x minus 1. As I mentioned before, usually, not always, but usually you can combine upon the peanut. And once I combine everything, we're going to get 8x to the third, negative 25x squared. We add these. This is going to be plus 11x and then minus 1. So this is going to be the answer for question 26. In case you missed that. So that's question 26. We'll go ahead and take a look now at 27. Where we have 6x minus 4 times 3x minus 12. Again, it's going to be another multiplication box here, just 2 by 2 for this one. So we have 6x minus 4. Then we have 3x minus 12 for question 27. So that's going to give me 18x squared minus 12x minus 72x plus 48. Combine those, that's going to give me 18x squared minus 84x plus 48. And that's going to be my final answer for question number 27. Let's go ahead and take a look now at question 28. as we begin to do some more work with those negative exponents. You'll see that'll be a pretty decent chunk of the test, as you really need to be proficient for the work that you're going to be doing in Math 125. So we have for the question 28, the quantity of negative 2 x to the 5th y to the negative 6th times 5 x to the negative 1 y. Okay, so if you want to, in the case when you're multiplying two monomials, we just gather, not like terms, because each of these is a term. There's one term times another term, but each part of these can be rearranged since it's all multiplication, so that we can put all of the like variables in close proximity to each other. So we have negative 2 times 5, that's one part. For the x's now, we can write this as x to the 5th times x to the negative 1 times y to the negative 6th times y to the 1. So remember, we add these together. So for this, well, first off, this gives negative 10. This would be 5 plus a negative 1. So you do 5 plus a negative 1, it's like 5 minus 1, so it's x to the 4th. And this would be like y to the negative 6 plus 1. So this would be y to the negative 5. But we can't leave an answer with a negative exponent. So we can't leave this as negative 10 x to the 4th y to the negative 5th. We need to bring this down. So remember, we're going to box this so we can move it. And our final answer to this is going to be then 10 x to the 4th divided by y to the 5th. And that's going to be the final answer written with a positive exponent. Let's take a look at 29 now. Let me fold this up a little bit. So over 29, we have an exponent on the outside. I'm going to kind of rewrite this here. So we have 3x squared y to the 4th over x to the 4, or z to the 4th, excuse me, it's z to the 2nd. So everything's going to get a second exponent. 3 is going to get a second exponent. X to the 2nd is going to get a second exponent. Y to the 4th is going to get a second exponent. And z to the 4th is going to get a second exponent. Now, in the case of these, remember, we multiply all the exponents. Here, 3 squared is just going to be 9. So that's going to give me 9 x to the 4th, y to the 8th, and then z to the 8th. And that's going to be our final answer for question 29. Take a look at question 30 now. We have a negative exponent on this one, so I'm going to do this with a little bit of a different technique I did in class, but it will be similar to what I showed in my videos for this. So I encourage you to please watch my videos for this, especially before tackling this. So we have x to the 5th times y, all to the negative 2. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and multiply all this out. Now, I mean, if you could flip it, that would probably make this a little easier because everything on the inside of this is positive. So when I multiply it by negative 2, it means everything's going to end up negative. So we're going to have x raised to the negative 2, because remember that's a 1. We're going to have y to the 6th raised to the negative 2. We're going to have x to the 5th raised to a negative 2. They're going to have y to the 1st raised to a negative 2. That's going to yield x to the negative 2, y to the negative 12, x to the negative 10, and y to the negative 2. Everything has a negative exponent. Everything's got to get flipped. I mean, you could box everything if you want to, but I'm just going to flip the whole darn thing. So this x to the negative 10 is going to become x to the 10th up here. Y to the negative 2 is going to become y to the 2nd here. X to the negative 2 is going to become x squared here. Y to the negative 12 is going to be y to the 12th here. Now, you may do this a couple different ways, but 10 minus 2 will give me x to the 8th. 2 minus 12, well, you can either leave just y to the 10th below, or you can write this as y to the 2 minus 12, negative 10. But if you do that, then we're just going to write this as 1, move this down so we get x to the 8th divided by y to the 10th. And we have our final answer for question 30. Let's take a quick look at question 31. Let's just kind of use this paper here quick for this. If I have, for 31, negative 2 to the 0 plus negative 7 to the 0. Remember, this whole quantity is equal to 1. This whole quantity is equal to 1. that'll equal 2. Be careful. I'm probably not going to ask a question exactly like that. You probably want to refer to your homework questions to get a taste of how to watch out and address things that are raised to the 0. And remember, if it's not in parentheses, it's only going to raise a portion of that to that exponent. All right, let's go ahead to question number 32. And we'll take a look at how we use the exponent rule there. So it says, use the power rule and the power of a product or quotient rule to simplify the expression. So after some of the other ones we looked at, that doesn't look too bad. So it's going to be negative 4xy to the second. So that's going to be equal to negative 4 to the second, x to the second, and y to the second. Well, that'll give me, in that case, 16 x squared, y squared. Not too bad, I hope. And I think that would be choice B if I'm not mistaken. Let's go on and take a look at 33. Okay, find the quotient using long division. So this is something that was covered at the end of chapter 3. I think it's covered in 3.6 if I'm not mistaken. So if you haven't done your video on long division, just know there's going to be a question on the midterm about this. And it's something that you guys hopefully have studied and are familiar with. Okay? If you look at this and you haven't looked at it yet, what I will explain won't make much sense. So if I do this by long division, I'm going to take x plus 2, and I'm going to write this as x squared plus 9x plus 6. So as was mentioned with the videos you would have seen with the class online, not my videos, I want to get rid of x squared. So what do I multiply x by to get x squared? I'm going to multiply it by x. X times x will give me x squared. X times 2 is going to be plus 2x. But here's the trick. I need to subtract this, just like I do in any other division question. So this is going to be like, when I put this through, I'm going to change the signs of everything to combine. So x squared minus x squared will give me 0. 9 minus 2 is going to give me 7x. I'm going to bring the 6 down now. Okay. So now I have x plus 2. I want to figure out how am I going to get rid of 7. So what do I have to multiply x by to get it to be 7x? I'm going to multiply it by plus 7. 7 times x will give me 7x. 7 times 2 will give me 14. But remember, I have to subtract this quantity. And in subtracting this quantity, that means that I'm going to change the sign of what's in here to combine. And that's going to give me 6 minus 14, so that's going to give me negative 8. Now this negative 8 at this point, this is a remainder. So I'm going to write this as minus 8 divided by x plus 2. And I believe that's going to yield the answer we have for choice B, if I'm not mistaken. So my final answer is x plus 7 minus 8 over x plus 2. Again, let me kind of show this work. I didn't show this up here. So when I want to figure out what to multiply x by to get 7x, well, I want to get rid of the 7x here. It takes 7 times x to get 7x. 7 times 2 will be 14. I have to subtract this quantity, so I would put a subtraction sign here originally. The 7x, which was positive before, when I distribute this through, is going to become negative. 6 minus 14 give me 8. This will cancel, and that's why I get the remainder here that I do. Again, if this is something you're not comfortable with, not the end of the world if you don't know how to do this. I would probably devote my time to other things. That's just my opinion. Okay, so let's take a look at 34 now. So I have synthetic division for this one to divide. So here's another synthetic division question. So for this one, if I have x plus 3, I'm going to put negative 3 through. I'm going to have 3, 2, 1, 0, so everything is there. Negative 5, negative 13, 10, 12. Okay. Again, if you know synthetic division, this will make sense. If not, you may not like this question too much. So I'm going to bring negative 5 down here. Negative 3 times negative 5, that's going to be positive 15. Negative 13 plus 15 gives me 2. Negative 3 times 2 is going to be equal to negative 6. 10 minus 6 will equal 4. So I have negative 3 times 4, that's going to be negative 12. 12 minus 12 gives me 0. So that's going to be my regular term. This is going to be my x term, so this will be plus 2x plus 4. This is going to be negative 5x squared. Now, I will say on the test, even though on the practice test I have 2 synthetic division questions, on the actual test, there will only be 1. So, again, if it's not something that is your favorite subject, or you haven't had time to spend time with it, you may just want to let that question go. Pick your battles wisely. But that, oops, bringing that down here, there is the final answer written to this. My apologies for not showing that. It's just a lot of work to show in a small space. So there's the final answer written when I convert the coefficients I get here to convert this to the final answer in polynomial form. Okay, I'm going to go ahead to question 35, and I will be taking a break in a little bit here, so maybe 1 or 2 more questions when the students change periods, and I'll record at a later time. So I have a 4-term polynomial. We're going to factor by grouping, so we have xy plus 11x minus 8y minus 88. Well, from the first part here, we can factor out an x. So it's going to be x times y plus 11. For the second term here, we have 8 and 88. We should be able to factor out an 8 out of this, but specifically a negative 8. Because we have the first term being negative. So I'm going to factor out a negative 8 here. That's going to give me y plus 11. The reason this becomes positive is because I factor the negative out since both parts are negative.
Attention, Eagles. Again, we have a very short line in room E4. If you want to buy your homecoming dance ticket, come to E4. We have a very short line in E4. Again, all Eagles, if you want to buy your homecoming dance ticket, please come down to E4.
Me being impatient.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And I hope that's the last I hear from you. Okay, so when I put this together, I have y plus 11, I have y plus 11. So it's this that I remove from each part, but the other part I have left is x minus 8. So my other factor is going to be x minus 8 here, and that's how you conduct factoring by grouping for that problem. Okay. Next, factor the trinomial completely if the polynomial is prime indicates such. I don't think I ever put prime questions on tests. If I have it there, it's probably going to factor. So we have x squared plus 4x minus 45. If you have not watched my videos on this, or you haven't been to class, then this method won't make a lot of sense. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify what my a, b, and c are. So if this is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, that means that a is equal to 1, b is equal to 4, c is equal to negative 45. And my Xbox method, as I referred to in my video, we have the product of a times c up here, and then we have the sum of b down below. So we have 1 times negative 45 is negative 45, and then we have a sum of positive 4. Now, because we need 2 numbers that multiply to negative 45, but in this case, it's either a sum or a difference of 4. Okay? Because this product is negative, that means one number has to be positive, one number has to be negative. So when we add them, it's not going to add up to be a sum, but because they're opposite in sign, it's going to be a difference. So since it adds to positive 4, we need 9 times negative 5, because positive 9 times negative 5 is negative 45. 9 minus 5 is positive 4. So how we're going to do this is we're going to break this down, and we can put x and x here, and then we just put the numbers in, plus 9 minus 5. And that is now a factor. Okay. Let's take a look at the next problem. 37. We're going to factor in this question here. 3x to the third plus 6x squared y. Write that down. Guys, I'm going to actually stop this now because the bell's going to ring in a couple minutes and I'll have to pick this up after school to resume this. Thank you very much.